Howdy, howdy. Welcome to another episode on the Denver Green Living channel. So excited to have Nicole McSpirit with us today. We're going to be talking about bicycle safety in Denver. And I'll give you kind of a quick intro. But first, hi, Nicole.
Hi, Joan. Thanks so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
I mean, I didn't even know we had a bicycle mayor of Denver, and now
You
we've
know,
got her.
I didn't really know it too much until I got appointed to be it. So I'm just trying to figure this all out.
Yeah, that is terrific. All right. So, in our session today, Nicole is going to be telling us about bicycle safety in Denver and three ways that we can all make an impact. Because I think, around the concept of like Denver green living, who hasn't been on a bicycle and felt that freedom, that just pure joy? And yet, as our streets have gotten, more crowded, there's maybe seems like less places to be safe or people don't know how to. I think this is a really important conversation of how we can be bicycling more and do it confidently, and how when we're on the roads we can be part of that effort to make it better for everyone. So let's bring Nicole on, and I'm going to bring up some slides. But Nicole, do you want to start by telling us a little bit about how did you become so passionate about about cycling?
Well, it's something that I did when I was younger. I grew up in New Orleans, and it was just easier in many ways to bike around, even in the heat, because you get the nice breeze. And I used to work in the French Quarter, which is notorious for horrible parking. And even if you found a good parking spot, you could get towed, or it was very expensive. So it was just kind of easier for me. Spent many years not really cycling very much, especially when I had young kids, and found it a little intimidating to be out on the streets with small children. But got back into it several years ago, just kind of trying to navigate on my own. And then I went on a trip to Amsterdam, and really was just kind of blown away. And my first trip there, I didn't even ride a bike. I just kind of watched. I watched just how well traffic flowed without stop signs. People just kind of use eye contact and body language, and just seemed to flow so well. And a vibrant city without the horrible noise of traffic rushing by you. And I just got inspired and realized I was not going to be moving to Amsterdam anytime soon, but I was going to try to take some of those elements and bring them here to Denver, which is how I got my Twitter handle, Going Dutch Denver, or Going Dutch Den. And just started looking into advocacy programs, and got involved with mapping out safe routes, and just a grassroots organization to help promote safety, and just kind of rolled from there. And once you start into it and you start getting on the roads and seeing the problems, it's really hard to not see it and not get involved. So that's where I am now.
I mean, that's a great message, because I think, that is the thing, is that when we go from hopeless and helpless to actually, no, wait, I'm the expert. Because I think most of us were kind of raised that somebody else was going to figure these things out.
Yeah.
And, we have to realize that, no, like if you're bicycling, you're the one that's going to figure it out. So that thing that you're doing, you're the one who can advocate and help other people make it better. I mean, I think even like the thing I saw that you were saying, like that you help people figure out, like, I want to get back into cycling. It's like, call me. I can help you find a safe way to get going.
And I've done that with several friends. Just, they want to do it, but are intimidated, especially a neighbor who has a youngest child who also wanted to use his bike, and she wanted to go out with him to make sure he was safe, but she was also intimidated. So kind of got her comfortable so that she could go and ride with her son. But there's a lot of people like that who just want to do it, but are just kind of having trouble taking that step. And there are things you can do. And all of this that we're going to be talking about today is really stuff you can do on a personal level. I mean, the thing that really makes biking and walking in cities safe is infrastructure. And you and I can't build the infrastructure, but until we get that infrastructure and advocate for that infrastructure, there's things that we can all kind of take a little bit of personal responsibility in and make the streets a bit safer for everyone.
All right, so we're going to try this. We just threw a bunch of slides together here. We might be popping back and forth, figuring it all out. But yeah, so we were talking about the three things of as a driver, as a cyclist, and as an advocate. Mm-hmm. So do you want to jump right in there?
Yeah, well, like I said, like you were saying, we kind of broke this down into three categories. What you can do as a driver to make our roads safer, what you can do as a bicyclist, and what you can do as an advocate. So the first topic is the big one. It's what you can do as a driver. And the first thing is drive less. And I know I'm not saying like just ditch your car and just walk and take transit and bike everywhere. For many people, that's just not reasonable. We make very big decisions, life decisions of where to live, where to work, where to go to school, where to shop, based on the assumption that we're going to get there with a car. So taking that out of the mix is very difficult. But starting small, if you have a neighbor or a friend who lives a mile away and you need to return something to them, walk or ride your bike. If you want to go downtown and don't want to deal with the hassle of traffic and paying for parking, take the bus. Things like that. Carpooling, bundling your trips. It's just there's a whole bunch of different ways. Everyone, unless you've made that jump into completely car-free living, all of us can reduce the amount that we drive. And I think one thing that I've always said to people is get into the habit of asking yourself every time you need to go somewhere, ask yourself, how am I going to get there? And you may always answer with a car, but just get into that habit of thinking of your choices of transportation. And eventually you'll have some opportunities to use other methods of travel.
I guess this picture shows that you, like, even if it's snowing.
Yeah.
There's
there's definite days when the roads are icy and rutted, where I'm like, I don't want to break a hip. I'm getting a little older now, not as, confident. But yeah, it's really like people think, oh, you must get so cold. And like, no, it's, if you can go skiing, you can go for a bike ride. And there's things like you'll see on my handlebars there. Those are called pogies, and they're basically little mitts for your handlebars, so they keep your hands nice and warm. I tell a lot of people to try to use a step-through upright bike. It's personal preference, but if you're biking in the city, it does help visibility. It not only lets you be seen, but it helps you see others. And so that also means like I can ride with a big long coat and keep myself nice and warm. So it's doable. When I first started biking for transportation, I would have never imagined that I'd be biking in the winter, but it's really quite lovely, and you warm up pretty quickly. Even I ride an e-bike, so I get a little pedal assist. I still have to pedal, but I don't have to pedal as hard as someone with an acoustic bike. But you warm up. Yeah, in fact, I'm usually overdressed when I go out in the winter, and I'm kind of shedding the layers.
Right. So so that's the first one, is drive less. And then I think
drive smaller.
Drive small.
Which is not something we can do right away either, but I just kind of want people to know the greater risks you present to other people on the roads when you drive a large vehicle. And if you can't stop driving that larger vehicle right away, that's understandable. Like, cars are kind of hard to come by these days, and many vehicles are not even sold that are small. And this picture right here even shows what our trucks have become. That was the one in the front was a perfectly reasonable, functional bike truck 30 years ago. And you can see like even the truck bed is about the same size. You're not.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen people like have to climb into their trucks. They're so tall. And it can't be easy loading stuff into trucks that have that high, and they do present more of a risk. If you drive an SUV or a truck, you're 2 to 3 times more likely to kill a pedestrian or bicyclist rather than if you're driving a sedan or something smaller.
Wow.
Yeah, it's significant. So you'll see the grill heights there. Instead of if you strike a pedestrian or bicyclists who are unprotected, they call vulnerable road users, which I don't know if that's a completely accurate. You don't want to be calling people vulnerable, but people who are not protected by cars. So, if you were hit by that car on the left, your legs would not be good, but you would probably go over the car and suffer injuries, but they most likely wouldn't be life threatening. If you get hit by a vehicle with a taller front end, you're getting into vital organ territory. So higher strike zone, higher weight, they're just not going to be as fun to get hit, and you're more likely to be hit and drug under the car. So yeah, they present a significant risk to other people on the roads, and especially when you get in the really large vehicles, and they even, people driving smaller cars are more at risk. Yeah, and this is just kind of showing the roads, our public road space. Our roads belong to everyone, and just how inequitably we've divided up our roads. A lot of roads will have 3 lanes for cars and maybe a narrow little strip for pedestrians. And if you're lucky, maybe a little strip of a bike lane, which is probably not going to be good riding next to 3 lanes of traffic. But just, our cities are designed for vehicles. We've spent the last few decades, almost 100 years, designing our cities for convenience and speed of vehicles rather than safety.
I think what this shows too is, that people will have outcries of like, why are you adding a bike lane? And what this is showing is if we did prioritize bicycles, we would have a lot more space.
Exactly.
So it's, instead of saying that the bike lane is the criminal, the instigator, it's kind of, you're kind of saying, well, wait, look, turn this around and see from the other side.
Every person who normally drives, who switches to transit, bike, walking, that's 1 fewer car on the road. That's going to help, even if you're never going to ride a bike. Having bike infrastructure, protected bike infrastructure, has shown not only you not only have less congestion on your roads, but it's safer for all road users. It's safer for drivers as well. Yeah, and this is just something I grabbed, showing traffic fatalities in some of our peer cities. Seattle and Portland are very kind of similar in size. And this shows that we've got a lot of work to do to make our streets safe here in Denver.
Why is it that Seattle has such a lower fatality rate than Portland even, and especially Denver?
Yeah, well, and it really comes down to infrastructure. They have much better infrastructure. Denver just, we have more, I don't know, of this kind of truck mentality, like big, wide, drive everywhere, drive big vehicles. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's definitely, there's probably a multitude of factors here, but even, we've gone up since then. Last year was a record high of 84 pedestrian fatalities on our roads here in Denver.
Do you count, is that
it's all modes.
Okay, so, but you're just, I think, just like to pause for a moment there to give reverence and honor to those people that lost their lives. So that's walkers, bicyclists.
And while the percentage of people driving who are killed in fatalities. As an overall percentage is going down, those people who are walking and biking, those percentages are going up. Just like that again is large part due to bigger vehicles. It's and it's important to realize too that those 84 fatalities, it's not just those 84 people, it's the friends and family who now have to deal with that. It's the people who witnessed it or were on scene, who will be forever traumatized by seeing such a violent death. Yeah, I mean, it hit home, last year with my nephew who got hit by an SUV driver and lost his leg and suffered a severe brain injury. He'll never be the same.
Was that in Denver, Nicole?
It was in Aurora.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
Sorry.
Not, and that's what we say. So these are all predictable and preventable. The majority of our crashes and fatalities happen on the same streets in Denver, along our high injury network. And we know these are dangerous streets.
And this is why it's good. So let's talk about what makes streets safer. And then in the end, our third thing is how to be an advocate and some of the groups that you can be a part of, to be part of the solution. What are we looking on this one, or do I have the right slide up?
That was the video, and this is actually in California, but it kind of it shows sure. And you can probably turn the volume down. I don't know if you need to hear me screaming at the woman.
I'm not sure if it'll. Okay, let's see.
Either way, I don't think I use anything, but this also shows in the beginning of that truck had its door open. And you'll see, like, I kind of anticipated.
Drop your phone!
No, I mean, I could see, you can't really see it in the video. She was on her phone. She did not signal her turn. So, I mean,
so that guy's in the lane.
Yeah. And he had his door open before then. So it was, there's just a multitude. This is what we call a door. This is what we call a Warzone bike lane. It's incredibly unsafe for people. SLO, where this was, San Luis Obispo, is now taking out all these bike lanes and putting in protected bike lanes, which makes it so much nicer and so much safer.
Could you say that term again? Because I didn't know that before we talked earlier, but door zone.
Yeah, so the door, so you can see like the door zone is exactly where if you're exiting your parked car and you open your door, that's going to be not very fun for the cyclist.
Right.
And why we put bike lanes here is purely for convenience of drivers. This is really more about getting bicyclists out of the way of drivers than it is protecting bicyclists. I tell people not to ride in them. I take small streets like this. My camera makes everything look a little bit wider. This video is another one that just kind of shows how our bigger vehicles have bigger blind spots. And so if you're not coming to a full stop, you might miss a cyclist or a pedestrian. So here I am going to the grocery store, and this car driver has a stop sign. And they kind of stop, and then they just start to go. And you can see the driver actually flips me off. And it happens a lot. I mean, no one likes to kind of be confronted with the fact that maybe I'm not driving safe. But and what I say is, for so long we've prioritized driver convenience and speed that are it's no wonder that we're driving this way. We're kind of forced to drive everywhere because that's really the convenient option. And so you just kind of get into a routine and you're not maybe paying attention. You just start rolling through the stop signs. We all have some personal responsibility to operate these massive, inherently dangerous vehicles safely. A lot of it is the road design that just doesn't promote safe driving.
Didn't you say And I can't remember if we have another slide about that or if this is, but I think that was something I didn't realize till we were talking, that, people do say they want to be in a bigger vehicle because they can see better. But I think you said in actuality, when it comes to seeing bikes, it's kind of the opposite.
Yeah, well, see, so our safety regulations in the United States only focus on the safety of people inside the car. We don't take into account people outside the car like they do in other countries. So you'll see the big space between the windshield and the side mirrors is called an A-pillar, and that as vehicles get bigger, those are required to get bigger too, because the vehicles are heavier. Bigger vehicles are more likely to flip. They have to be able to support their weight on the top of the car. So those have to be chunky. They're bigger, which means a bigger blind spot. So if you never come to a stop at a stop sign, I could be in that blind spot while I'm riding. And that's something that I know as a cyclist, like that's an issue. So I pay attention. But if you're just going out there and haven't been biking in a while, it's something you need to look out for and realize that people may not see you, even if you're donned out in neon yellow, or I have daytime running lights. I have little pinwheels on my bike, and I've already been dressed in bright orange for a Dutch festival and had someone blow through a stop sign right in front of me. But it's really important that when you come to a stop sign, you come to a full stop, and you look not only for other cars, but pedestrians and bicyclists. And drive under the speed limit, please. It's, I have another one of those slides that shows just how speed really matters. If you don't have it, it's fine. I can kind of go over it.
Yeah, that would be good. I'm not sure if I do.
Yeah, but like if a bicyclist or a pedestrian is hit by a vehicle going 20 miles an hour, and this is a regular sized vehicle, so it's going to be a little different if you have a ginormous vehicle. So if a vulnerable road user is hit by a vehicle traveling at 20 miles an hour, they have a 90% survival chance. When that goes up to 30, it becomes a 50% survival chance. By the time you get to 40 miles an hour, you're talking about a 10% survival chance. So if those
could you just say those again?
Sure. So 1 in 10 people will die if you hit them at 20 miles an hour. 5 in 10 will die at 30 miles an hour, and 9 in 10 out of 10 will die at 40 miles an hour. And again, this is for a normal size vehicle. You're talking greater or worse odds for bigger vehicles. So those, if you don't think going 40 instead of 30 makes a difference, it does. It makes a huge difference.
So when you see a bicyclist and you're driving, because I think that is one of the things that happens is you're not always sure what to do, how to pass safely and all that stuff. But I think from what you just said, the number one thing that you could do is just slow down.
Yes.
And
that helps. That helps. Yeah, exactly. And it's difficult. Like I said, our roads if you feel comfortable driving 45 miles an hour in a road that's posted 30 miles an hour, that's a problem. You shouldn't, our road design should be intuitive. We should not need a bunch of signs telling us how to use this infrastructure. I think that's why a lot of drivers don't pay attention to signs, because they're just overloaded. There's signs everywhere telling you stuff, and people are just doing what feels natural. So that's one of the reasons why it's so important to have safe infrastructure, visibility on corners. We have parking way too close to corners, so it's really hard to see when you're crossing the street, or have people driving to see you. I've been hitting crosswalks. I've almost been hitting crosswalks numerous times. Just people, mainly if you're turning right and you're kind of coming up to a stop sign, your inclination is to just look left and roll through the stop sign. So if you're coming from the right, you're not going to see a pedestrian. and that's another thing, like we're trying to get, well, that's one of my goals, is to try to get right turns on red banned, because they do cause so much conflict between bicyclists, pedestrians, drivers. When you think about it, like if you're turning right on red, you're most likely looking left. So you're blocking a crosswalk. You're not maybe looking, and if a crash does happen, that debris goes everywhere. So those people waiting to cross are not going to be happy. But it just, well, that was something that was introduced back in the 70s as a kind of a gas saving measure. But it really makes our roads unsafe, and it's not worth any minuscule amount of savings in gas. I mean, we still have drive-throughs where we're idling the whole time. So if we have those, we can afford to wait a few seconds more at a red light.
Right. Okay. So we talked about, as a driver, drive less, drive smaller, drive slower. And, and just those different things to be aware of, that you might have blind spots that you're not thinking of, because of your car design. And so, and then as a cyclist, to be aware of those same things too. And then go ahead.
Well, no, and as a cyclist, like, there's a few things that you can do to improve your safety. But really our safety is dependent on the infrastructure that we're riding on, and the vehicles and the drivers around us. We can do things. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, so how can, so some of the things we talked about was, I know what I was going to ask you. You mentioned about like kind of mapping safe routes. And then after that, I think we could go into more of the advocacy.
Well, I mean, we're all kind of used to, if you need to go somewhere with a car, you just kind of jump in and maybe plug in where you need to go if you're not quite familiar. It takes a little bit more work when you're getting there by bike. I worked on a project called Denver Street. Why am I spacing? Denver Bike Streets, which kind of maps out small neighborhood or side streets that you can bike on, that sees relatively low volume, low speed. And I recommend kind of taking the lane in there, and which is riding in the primary position, kind of almost like you would when you're driving. You just kind of ride in the middle of the road, maybe if it's wide enough, a little bit to the right, outside of the reach of car doors. Basically, you kind of want to be predictable. So you want to be visible as well, just kind of ride in the center of the lane rather than hugging the curb, hugging the gutter, weaving in and out of parked cars. That just makes you less visible to vehicles. But I don't care so much to ride in paint only bike lanes along, because those are usually on busier streets, where it's very easy, even if the speed is posted at 30 miles an hour, it's very easy for drivers to go twice that. And as we've already stated, speed is a huge factor in survivability. So I kind of recommend people stay on the smaller side streets, but that takes a little bit extra time, because you also probably want to cross the bigger streets at an intersection. So that's primarily when I use, a paint only bike lane, it's to get across a larger arterial, because I don't really want to play Frogger crossing Colfax or whatever.
That's such a good point, though, to think about that speed, that, if something does go poorly, and if it's a lower speed route, then whether you have to ride in the middle, ride in the middle of the lane.
And that doesn't mean you don't move over. Yeah. And that doesn't mean, if someone's coming at you, you kind of, just like you would if you were driving, you kind of allow, but, not, in other words, I don't want people to ride in the gutter. Not only is it less visible for them, but there's also going to be more likely to debris that you're going to maybe lose traction on. So just kind of pick a lane that's in kind of the middle of the street, just outside of the door zone, and just try to ride as straight as possible. You're going to be better seen, and it's a little bit safer that way. And I also always say, again, like an upright bike. It's easier because I ride like this. So it's very easy for me to kind of look around, and I'm pretty much just as tall on my bike as I am walking. So I'm not kind of hunched over and, having difficulties moving around. But I think they do, they're a little bit safer, especially if you get older and aren't as comfortable being kind of a really sporty rider.
Right. Oh, and we had so many that I wanted to mention too that this is just the first conversation that we're having about bicycles. We have so many other things to talk about, including some of the bike rebate programs that are like Denver's got its going, and now Colorado has one coming. So, and then some of these other initiatives that are starting to happen. So we're hoping to just like whet everyone's curiosity and invite you to get involved in any of these. And and this is just the beginning.
And Ebike Rebate was wildly popular and had to be paused after only a few weeks because there was so much demand. I was actually able to use it for another e-bike. My daughters, when they're away at college, but when they come back, it's kind of nice to have another bike for them to ride. Like I said, I also take other people for rides, and so it's nice to have a bike that's shareable. It was great to be able to take part in that, and we're getting national attention for that program, which hopefully will open up in another week or two.
And I saw just real briefly that the data that was collected initially was showing that people were actually using them to reduce car miles. And that's pretty cool. It wasn't just like, hey, I don't know, okay, now I have a fancy thing parked in my garage or something. So I like that there was some data collection and reporting with that already.
And it's more important as we go on. I mean, we've struggled with air quality issues. One of the main reasons I initially got my e-bike about 3 years ago was I have asthma and other lung issues that made it difficult for me to ride my acoustic bike when the air quality was bad. Or if it was just incredibly hot. So it reduced my ability to ride my bike. So this really, once I got my e-bike, within 5 months, I sold my car. We still have one family car that the four of us use. But literally over 5 months of having my e-bike, I used my car, I think, once or twice. And the insurance and the registration was coming due, and I just didn't want to renew it and have the car just sitting there. So sold that. One car, which only gets used maybe 1,000 miles a year. It's kind of our norm now.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I think another topic is I'd love to dive into the story about Amsterdam and how it wasn't always bike friendly. So we won't go into that now, but I think that's a kind of mind-blowing idea that it's like, hey, we can make an impact, and we really need to do things that aren't just like greenwashing, that where we're really making changes. And this is just one area that we can actually. So let's talk about that real quick. So people are saying, okay, well, I love bicycling. I want the city to do more. What are some of the initiatives that are out there that you are a part of, or that you would like to invite people to join and be effective in?
Yeah, and there's quite a few. There's some overlap, so I think you could join anyone and be kind of well informed. But because there's a lot of stuff going on, it's hard to keep track of every survey, every ballot measure regarding this kind of safe streets initiatives. So if you join or follow or sign up to get notifications from Denver Streets Partnership, you will get all of that advocacy stuff that is really quite helpful to kind of keep track of all of that. Of course, in my world, we're all kind of surveyed out. We take them because they're important, but we're like, wait, did I take this one already? It's like every week there's another survey. But it's really important to keep on top of that. Denver Bicycle Lobby, that's kind of what I am bicycle mayor of. They're just a grassroots group of people just fighting for safer biking and walking. We feel like we're all kind of allies in this. We shouldn't be fighting over the scraps left over from cars. We should have our own protected, safe, dedicated infrastructure, and be prioritized. We shouldn't have to push a button to cross the street and then wait 5 minutes for it to change. We're people too. We shouldn't have to, sit at a bus stop that 50-mile-an-hour traffic is whizzing by and wait an hour for your bus. That's why driving is so popular, is because historically 80% of our funding has gone towards car infrastructure, and the rest of the 20% is being, the crumbs are coming to biking and walking and transit. So it's no wonder that driving is the easy option, because that's the way we've made it. And so trying to change some of that, I think we have to, with the climate crisis and with our air quality and just quality of life and equity. A lot of people cannot afford to drive a car. And so when you make these non-car options difficult, it's not good for people in underserved neighborhoods, and not good for the city as a whole. And people in lower income neighborhoods and underserved neighborhoods, people without sidewalks, they're disproportionately affected by traffic violence as well. So these are all equitable issues that we need to kind of keep in mind. And our highways run through. We didn't build highways through white affluent neighborhoods.
Right.
We destroyed Black neighborhoods, and those are the people who are now suffering with incredible rates of asthma and just noise pollution. It's not good. We really kind of we took the wrong road, the wrong fork in the road when cars were developed 100 years ago. We're first kind of coming out 100 years ago, and I think we owe it to everyone, but particularly people of color, people struggling to make ends meet, to provide them with safe and dignified travel.
Yeah. And so the groups you mentioned, so Denver Streets Partnership, Denver Bicycle Lobby.
And then, it's where you can get a map to show you the different routes that we've chosen is Denver Bike Streets. So if you go to their website, you will see the map. It will download over Google Maps. It won't direct you using those routes, but you can see them in blue, highlighted. So, and those are ones, everyone knows like the nice little neighborhood streets that you can take, but if you go to the next neighbor over or across the city, you're not going to know those neighborhood streets that are safe to bike on. So there was just a lot of people getting together and collaborating and kind of putting this together by, led up by a great guy named Abby Stopper, who really kind of just spearheaded this all. And it was all a Kickstarter campaign. We got tons of hard copy maps and passed out, and those are pretty much all gone. We have a couple for prosperity, just as a reminder. But yeah, it's great to be able to pull it up on your phone and be able to see those routes.
And again, I love all the things that you're doing, because it's just showing this thing that I learned in doing the Green Team Academy, the nonprofit I started, which is, that a lot of the despair that people feel is because of these messages of like trying to do things alone.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get together,
absolutely,
you really can. And I think like our city representatives, they don't know all the things that maybe a group of bicyclists know. And so it is our duty, our responsibility to those areas that we have expertise in to communicate that and have a cohesive voice and communicate that. And it's exciting and it's creative, all the things that you're working on. And for like, I've got a granddaughter now, and thinking about, okay, would I feel safe having her on my bike? And I want the answer to be yes. And so, figuring out, well, how could I do that rather than just, rather than just throwing up your hands to say, okay, this is something I can figure this out.
And that's the goal, is to make it safe for people 8 to 80, all ages and abilities is what we're pushing for. No more, just paint only bike lanes. What I really see as the only two options today are protected bike lanes that are actually protected, like with some concrete, something to stop vehicles from entering either by accident or by purpose for parking in, or you take, small side streets and you put diverters in every 2 or 3 blocks, which kind of force car traffic off, but allow people in bikes to go through, basically modal filters. And then, so people who live on those streets can still get to their, houses. People can still get there, but it and you still have all your parking, but it eliminates through traffic, which that's usually the problem. People tend to drive safely in their own neighborhood, but when you get people kind of cutting through to try to avoid some of the congested roads, then you have a dangerous situation. And we actually, some of us in the Denver Bicycle Lobby have a meeting with one of the, I think he's the lead planner of Dottie. Is it Dottie? Yeah. But
your Dottie is Denver Office of Transportation.
It's Denver.
Something about Denver Transportation.
No, it's Denver office or Denver. Wow, I'm really spacing now.
Anyhow, it's Denver Transportation.
Yeah, Denver Transportation and Infrastructure. Oh, it's there somewhere. So, yeah, it must be. It used to be Denver Public Works, but we kind of they made a new segment for really infrastructure. But I just kind of go over with them. They kind of know where we stand. I had a meeting with them about a bikeway proposed in my neighborhood that I took a group of people to ride, and we kind of looked at their plans and kind of said some good things and some bad things and kind of made some suggestions. So I had a meeting with them a week or 2 ago, just kind of going over some of our thoughts with that. And, we'll see, we can't be quiet about this stuff.
Right. Yeah. So I really appreciate all the things that you're doing, just rolling along the roads there and taking your observations and bringing them together and helping. I learned so much in talking with you about some of these different things, like speed as the number one thing, and also visibility. And so I really appreciate everything you're doing. I want to let everybody know that, this Denver Green Living channel is here to be a resource. So if there's other topics like this that you're wondering, other questions that you have for Nicole or others on bicycling, definitely reach out and let us know. And we're having so much fun with this Denver Green Living idea. I've been talking to different folks about what they have going on with their houses, and people are getting energy audits and doing air sealing and insulation and tearing out their lawns and putting in permaculture, native landscapes. And, all of these things are creative, they're fun. And I think that's the vibe that we really want to share about taking care of the planet. It's not, don't do this, don't do that. It's, hey, we have the power to make a difference in everything we're doing, whether it's our homes or how we
inspiring others to take part. Yeah, and that's with advocacy. Several initiatives got passed last year. 20 is plenty, which reduced all of our default speed limits on our side streets from 25 to 20, which doesn't sound like it's much, but it actually allows our planners to design for those lower speeds. So you will see more traffic calming elements on our roads, which is huge. And then also the safety stop for cyclists and scooter riders, which allows you to treat stop signs as yields and red lights as stop signs. So as long as it's clear to go, you can cross, and that just helps also with visibility and helps you clear the intersection to get out of the way of vehicles who might be turning. But so, advocacy does work. Inspiring people works. Like it's getting the information out there, like you said, and just doing every little part that we can.
Yeah. And I met you through your comments in Women in Sustainability. And so, I think that's the thing is, put it out there, talk about those things that you care about, and let's do this thing. So yeah, so if you're, the really exciting thing I heard from talking with Dara last week was, I was saying, hey, if somebody qualifies for a home, how likely are they going to be able to qualify for solar at the same time? And they said, I can pretty much guarantee it. It's like, that's insane, right? Every single home sale could also be an opportunity to put solar in if the roof is compatible. Like, I mean, so there's some really mind-blowing opportunities that we have when we start collaborating and asking ourselves, just like going back to the beginning when you said, Nicole, just asking yourself, do I need to get in my car, or is there some other way? So basically, can I do a little bit better? So thank you for all the stuff.
Yeah, well, and just getting into a habit of something is really hard to break free from that. So it's just trying to think outside the box and consider alternatives. And I think that's great for everything in life.
Yeah, indeed. All right. Well, thank you so much. And please, if you enjoyed this, then give us a thumbs up. And if you want to know about more Denver Green Living, then subscribe to the channel. And if you're interested in making a move to Denver and at the same time having a really massive positive environmental impact, then call, text, email me. Let's hop on here and let's make something happen. All right. Thanks so much, Nicole.
Thank you for having me.
That was great. Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.